Good afternoon. I have some really amazing questions coming in. I had to cancel my in-person clients today because I have been fighting such a horrible cold for about 10 days now. I don't want to get anybody sick. And I was feeling well enough to connect with you here. And I thought, what's the best use of my time if I'm away from these precious clients? And it would be to answer some of your questions and get some really great info out there, because I have so many new practitioners here who work with the physical body, a lot of detox. I have a lot of moms, grandmas, wives asking questions on how to tap with teenagers, husbands, men, why tapping works, when to apply it, if it's the right tool for them. So I'm going to see if I can wrap some stuff up here for you. So let me tell you this, if you're wanting to just scroll Instagram, this isn't going to be for you right now. I'm going to try to post it on Instagram, but this is really going to be for those of you who want to understand tapping, what the hype is, why it's catching so much steam, why I make such a big deal about it here. It's such a profound tool. And so I want to make this two parts. The first part is I'm going to try to just give you a ton of information for why tapping really works, how it works, when to use it, so on and so forth. I'm just now seeing this huge pile. I've been curled up. This is such a nice, cozy space. And the second video, I'm actually going to take you through a practice for tapping that's going to bring you a greater understanding of the physical body and the emotional mind and the components of tapping and how they all work together. Because usually you're going to hear me talking about the emotional components, how we focus on the negative in order to get to the positive. And really, truly, I don't share here a lot about how tapping works and the victories I have with clients. Most of my time is just not spent making videos. It's spent with clients. And so I want to give you an experience that's kind of non-emotional so that the men, the teenage boys, husbands, and even just a lot of you just don't want to deal with the emotional components at all of your journey. And I completely understand that. And I'll tell you part of the reason why that is. But what's happening is, as so many of you with autoimmune disease, Lyme's disease, things like that are seeking help for that, you're hearing your practitioners say, deal with the emotional components, go get some emotional work done, maybe see a therapist. And a lot of them are realizing that that can rewire trauma. And so they're looking for different modalities that actually unwire trauma rather than settle it back in, which is where I come in with tapping. And EMDR is a great one. Tapping involves a lot of EMDR type eye movements and techniques. So we can wrap it all up here together. And so what I want to do is give you an experience and an understanding of how you can actually shift your physical body without having to deal with all the emotions, since a lot of men especially have been taught not to cry, don't show your emotions, so on and so forth. Tapping is definitely a tool that you do not have to tell the whole story. You don't have to tell your life story. You don't have to explain everything, because my job especially, and I think a lot of practitioners of tapping work this way, is that we're not here to give you advice. We're actually here to allow you to feel something, neutralize the hormones like and cortisol in your body. Sorry, I'm still fighting this thing, bear with me. And allow your subconscious to kind of take a back seat so that your front brain can work and function and think more clearly without that fight or flight response that happens so often and so regularly. So what I want to explain a little bit here is why we tap. What is kind of going on. I'm not going to go too in depth, but I did find a really cool little snippet that is close to my heart, because in the beginning of my tapping journey, there was two women specifically, actually three, who were really impactful for me. One was Dr. Carolyn Leaf. If you don't know who she is, look her up. Look at her work on faith versus fear and how they grow in the brain. It's an incredible picture of how our thoughts actually take physical action. And when I understood that, I was open to a lot of new thinking, a lot of new ideas, and it really helped me to understand how I'd gotten myself to where I was in life. Another one was Sherry Rice Smith, not a doctor. She's an RN, and she wrote this book here. And this is EFT for Christians, put out by EFT Universe with the forward by Dr. Dawson Church, who is a really big guy in the EFT world. He was one of my teachers, and EFT Universe is a big certification company. And the reason I mentioned this book is because as a Christian myself, it was really important to me to make sure if I was taking part in something that looked like energy healing, I wanted to understand what the source was behind it. I wanted to understand the science behind it. I wanted to make sure I wasn't putting something before God in my healing journey and in my practices. And I wanted to make sure that it was designed by God for me and for a time as this. I wrestled with it for quite a while. And Sherry is incredible because she's a nurse, so she really understands the world of science, but she's also a believer. And so she understands the Bible. And she really helps in this book to, to explain to Christians why this is safe for Christians. So I'm saying that here because while tapping is a very clinical technique, a very scientific technique, there's a lot of Christians getting their hands on it. And the first question is this safe for me? In my opinion, yes, absolutely. It is a tool. It is not to be put in front of God, but I really believe that without this tool, I couldn't have received the healing and deliverance that he provided for me. And I do know it was him, and he was allowing me to use a tool that now I can share with you. So I was told to gargle with salt water for this thing I have. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard that my whole entire life, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but why? Why have people said that our whole entire life? So for those of you who think like me, it's like, okay, you can tell me that all day long, but help me understand why. Why should I gargle the salt water? So I did it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it because everyone says to warm salt water. All of a sudden I was able to cough and get like a really clean cough. So what I learned is there's something about the sodium that helps break things up. Boom, there's my why. So I understand a lot of you really need to know the why behind what I'm asking you to do here with tapping. And so what I want to help you to understand is the way that the mind and the body work together. Now, you could ask a whole bunch of different practitioners, different doctors, different people, different scholars. There's going to be so many different answers out there. The one that really, really caught me was in my time of studying Dr. Carolyn Leaf and her practices is that she grew to believe, she's a brain scientist, that she's also a Jesus follower, Christian, that 87% of illness and disease, okay, and if you think of the word disease, it is dis-ease, so dis-ease in the body, can be attributed to our emotions and our thoughts. So that leaves only another 13% to be things like our genetics and our environment. Again, okay, there's going to be other people who have different beliefs. This is what really caught my attention and helped me to understand how much of our physical body and our physical symptoms must really actually be wrapped up in a root of an emotion or a thought. So for me, I could have told you at the time I would get very anxious, my hands would shake, my breathing would get tight, my stomach would hurt. So I would have said, this isn't emotional, this is physical. I can physically feel my stomach hurting. Okay, but it only happened when I got anxious about something or went into a socially very like high energy atmosphere, like a movie or a wedding or a like a big fair or something like that. So take that into consideration here. So what I want to use, as I use this one a lot. And for any of you redheads out there, I absolutely love you and adore you. My best friend growing up was a redhead. And so this is nothing against redheads. This is just an analogy I use all the time because it's a little more rare to see somebody with natural red hair. Okay, so I want you to imagine, we're going to talk about the emotional physical correlation. And the way we were designed, which I can go on and on and on about this, but we were designed is to have proper leadership, guidance, and a firm foundation of who we are. And go through life feeling safe and secure. And there's some point, let's say in life, you're feeling safe and secure and everything's wonderful and great. And you're on the playground and you're in like I don't know, kindergarten, and you're just being yourself and you're being imaginative and you're excited and you're playing, and some kid comes out of nowhere and just bulldozes you, just completely knocks you down, and your knee gets skinned or whatever, and you hurt, and all of a sudden what's happening is inside your little body, it knows I am no longer safe. Something isn't safe about this. It's very simple. You're safe and then you're not safe. So your subconscious's job is to keep you safe. Unfortunately, it wants to keep you alive, not emotionally stable. So in that moment, what your subconscious does, and it's different for everybody. This is just an example because you're going to hear me say, if we ever work together or if you listen to me a lot, notice what you notice, notice what you notice, because I can't tell you what to notice in your work because it could be so broad, because we're all such incredible individuals with different stories and experiences. So in this case, a little kitty coming in, we've got this kid had red hair who bulldozed you. And so your subconscious just needs to scan your atmosphere and decide what could it have been that took you from safety to not safety. And so it's looking around and it might decide that there's a playground. Okay. So that's like a really cool, fun gymnasium type of place. Maybe there's a lot of kids, so that looks like a crowd. But most important, the one that really knocked you down had red hair. So you get up and the teacher says, brush it off, and so say sorry and whatever. Okay. So now you go on with life. And you are going into, let's say, the third grade, and you're so excited to go to third grade. You're going to get to be with some bigger kids, and there's going to be an even bigger playground, and it's just going to be so exciting. And your mom is taking you and you're holding her hand. And as you walk onto the campus, you're excited, and you walk into the classroom and you're excited. And then all of a sudden you get this horrible stomach ache, just horrible stomach ache. Mommy, my stomach hurts, my stomach hurts, my stomach hurts. Well, what's mom say? No, it doesn't. You're fine. You were just so excited, right? Sorry, moms. I'm a mom. I know we try to tell our kids all the time how they feel. So now there's this horrible stomach ache. What's going on? Why? So on and so forth. I mean, so bad that maybe you don't even want to stay there that day. So what we could find out later in tapping, okay, so this is for the story, is that one of the kids in the class had red hair. It wasn't the same kid necessarily, but one of the kids in the class had red hair. Now, if the mom says, what's going on? Why do you have a stomach ache? I don't know. I really was excited to be here. I really want to be here. I don't know why I have a stomach ache. So what's happened is the subconscious really remembered that time in kindergarten that you got knocked down. And one of the details that it scanned for was red hair. So it has been scanning since kindergarten into first grade, into second grade, into third grade, all day, all night, for anything that looks, acts, feels similar to that event that made you feel unsafe. So now you're excited, you're walking into this classroom, and your subconscious saw the redhead. You didn't know that there was a problem with redheads, but your subconscious knows that that's one of those things that we're scanning for. And all it cares about is you not getting pushed again by a redhead, right? So what's it going to do? It's going to now flood your system with I always like chemicals, and I always just call it like an energy frequency, which I am going to read a little snippet here for those of you who are doctors, practitioners who really understand the body. That's not part of my job with tapping. It was part of my studies, part of my education, part of my certification process, but it's not something that I take in to my all day, every day one-on-one work. So I will read this to you. But what happens in that moment is now this little person's system is flooded with this mix of chemicals that is saying, just run and hide, because if you run and hide, that redhead cannot hurt you. So I'm going to read this because it's going to make sense to a lot of you. The rest of you, you can kind of sit tight. Please forgive me if I mispronounce some of these. This is from this EFT for Christians book. It's so, so, so incredible. There's unlimited amount of resources out there. I know that with me here on Instagram and a lot of tapping stuff, you'll see it's just like, just tap on it and just feel these feelings and just tap. And it's like, looks so weird and doesn't make sense that it would ever do anything. The science behind it is fascinating. The results that practitioners are getting with their clients is incredible. It's so much breakthrough. PTSD is being destroyed. It is such a profound tool because it allows the benefits of things like acupuncture, but without the needles, and some of the benefits of the best talk therapy and EMDR without actually having to talk very much. This is a big deal for those of us who have had so much, well, not me so much, but those of you, I don't want to dishonor anyone who's had massive, massive, massive trauma. So the body's chemicals, for an emotion to be felt, the body must mix up a specific neurochemical compound from all the ligands available from which it can choose. Okay, this ligand was a word created by the late Dr. Candace Pert. It can be a neurotransmitter, a peptide, or a hormone. Some of the neurotransmitters are norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, histamine. That one's coming up a lot lately. It's really coming up a lot lately with a lot of clients. I don't know how to say this. Adenosine, and ATP, glutamate, aspartate, GABA, glycine, acetylcholine, anandamide, and nitric oxide. Peptides are insulin, amino acids, and proteins, and these comprise over 90% of the ligand group. The third group of ligands consists of the reproductive hormones. It's surely an interesting mix of chemicals that goes into producing one single emotion. So when you walked into that little class in third grade and your subconscious saw, okay, that red hair, it just shot a whole concoction through your body, through your brain. And what you're going to hear me say a lot, because cortisol is such a big deal when it comes to tapping, is that when your cortisol is up, your immune system is down and the blood leaves your brain so that you can run or hide. So this is why when we're triggered or charged, we might react unkindly, or we might react like a child. We might scream, yell, kick, because so many of those initial first emotions that we ever felt were back in childhood, and our subconscious is just scanning and looking and scanning and looking. There's another number. It says that our brain can have 400 billion actions going on in it at a time. Okay, we might only be aware of 2,000 of the conscious in our conscious mind. That's a lot of things going on in our subconscious that we're not aware of, and our subconscious wins. One of the things you'll hear me talk a lot about, you can go over to my highlights, I have some tapping 101 in there, is the difference between what we know and what we feel. So, so this little kid, okay, you could walk in and go, I know I'm safe here. I know I wanted to go to school. I know I was excited to meet some new friends and play on the great playground. I feel scared. I feel afraid. And that's why tapping is so important and such a needed thing right now, is because we've been taught not to feel. We've been taught that our feelings are unreasonable and irrational. But here's the thing. Our feelings are facts. We just live from them. We don't often go, oh, well, this is how I feel, but here's how I know, and that's how I'm going to conduct myself. We tend to conduct ourselves from a place of how we feel, not what we know. So with tapping, we're actually pulling up, okay, grabbing all those neurotransmitters, the transmitters that are going off when we're thinking about a certain problem that we want to focus on, or in this case, you're like, I don't know why whenever I go to social events, I feel so anxious. Okay, but your subconscious does. So you don't have to know that redhead was logged with unsafety. You just have to know that going to social events might make you anxious. We're going to get your cortisol dropped. We're going to get the blood back in your brain, so you don't need to run or hide. We're going to do that by tapping on specific tapping points, which are acupressure points. connected to your energy meridian system, which for those of you Christians, science has backed now that these are real energy systems. And we're going to get that blood in your brain. We're going to get your immune system dropped. We're going to get you thinking clearly. And then what we're going to do is get that actual event that happened in kindergarten, whether your brain decides to tell you that's what it is or not, we're going to get it filed so that that chemical, that hormone, that reaction is attached to that specific time in history. And now anything that looked, acted, or felt like that from that day to today that's been wired and compiled like a snowball effect, like PTSD, that it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time, is now going to be placed into that time, pulled from a trauma file, placed in a safety file. And what happens a lot of the times is one of my favorite practices, I might ask somebody, let's say somebody who does remember, they say, somebody hurt me, and it was 10 years ago, and it really hurt me. And I might say, okay, well, how long ago does it feel? And you've heard us all say, well, I remember it like yesterday, like it was yesterday. So I might ask somebody, how long ago does it feel? And they say, well, it was 10 years ago. Okay, we know it was 10 years ago. It feels like yesterday, or it feels like 2 months ago. With the tapping, we're going to focus on the feelings of that event. Okay, what's going on in that event as you remember it. And we're going to go through the process of tapping. Okay, just a really classic, really traditional, really fluid, sweet, gentle process of tapping. The amount of talking we do is different for everybody in different situations. Like I said, if you don't want to give the details, you don't have to. And what we're doing is we're using choice words, and we're tapping these points that are connected to negative and positive emotions, connected to all your organs and all your systems in your body. Obviously, a lot of chemicals we talked about. Possibly a lot of old memories that you may not even be aware of. And as we go through that old memory and really refile that in our body, we get to a point where you can say, I remember it, but it feels like 10 years ago now. So that's a gift. And what I have found with tapping is a lot of the cliche, like healing cliches, like just get over it. Put it in the past. Those things start to actually feel very real and true once you go through the tapping process and the filing process of old emotions, because you really are actually going through a very physiological process, a very subconscious and conscious process to take emotions. Okay, remember all of these chemicals we talked about, all these hormones that are just like come rushing through your system when you just see that redhead, or look and feel something that felt similar, or a large crowd, whatever it is. And a lot of you are already thinking now, like, oh, now I'm wondering what this is connected to. And we're really just filing things properly. What a gift it is when something happened 10 years ago, and instead of it feeling, right, because that's why we feel things as if they're happening all over again, okay, when we talk about them or remember them. And now we've relaxed the central nervous system, we've relaxed your subconscious, we've gotten the blood in your brain, and now it feels calm in your body as you remember the event 10 years ago. It now also feels like it's 10 years ago. Time seems to now have healed the wound, but really we just made the event get filed properly in time. So that's why sometimes we say time didn't heal the wound. It feels like yesterday. Another thing I want to mention here is, sorry about that. I'm definitely not going to go through and edit that sound out. I also want to mention this. One of the reasons this matters is because when we're talking about an old painful memory or an event, our subconscious doesn't actually know the difference between us talking about it or if it's actually happening all over again. So that's kind of an idea of how PTSD comes to be, is that you hear something or you see something and your subconscious doesn't know if it's happening all over again if you're just talking about it. So each time it gets wired and rewired and wired and rewired. With tapping, we're anchoring you into safety. Our very most important words with tapping are, even though this is the side of your hand that we're going to be on a lot, even though right here, right now, I'm remembering that time, I'm actually safe here in this moment. And we're sending a message to your subconscious. That's not happening. Talking about it, thinking about it, that's not happening right now. I'm right here. I'm present and I'm grounded. Those are more cliches, but tapping allows them to be true and actually uses them for our benefit. And so what starts to happen is our subconscious now is listening to us going, oh, I don't have to protect her from that anymore when she talks about it. I don't have to protect her from that when she thinks about it. I don't have to protect her from it when she looks around and something looks, acts, or feels similar. Okay. And it kind of takes a back seat. So that's one of the most important things to understand about why tapping is so effective. I would say breath work probably comes in at a close second. I haven't studied it very much, but I can tell you, breath work is very powerful. And I think a big reason for a lot of this is because what we're doing is we're being mindful. We're just being mindful of what comes up. We're breathing through it. The tapping, I think, adds such an incredible layer by accessing so many systems in our body, so many organs, which I know breathwork does too, but by also using these points and using these select words that communicate to our subconscious that it doesn't need to protect us, we can protect us. Now, one question that often pops up is, what about a woman who's being abused? And now you're tapping on this abuse. Is it going to file that all into her past? And so now that she's going to feel like it's fine, everything's fine. No, this doesn't make people stupid. This doesn't make you forget. This helps you to regulate your emotions and get the blood in your brain so you can think. So oftentimes an abused woman is actually going to finally say, no more of this, no more excuses. I see all of it clearly. I remember all of it clearly. And now I can see from over here, from farther away with time behind me and distance, that this pattern is going to continue unless I make a change. And now she can very carefully and strategically see her way out with confidence rather than a lot of shame, guilt, and cortisol zipping through her body. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that for you. One more thing. Somebody asked me, I want to know if tapping would be good for my daughter. It was a teenager, maybe she was 12. Okay. And then I had actually somebody very close to me asked me today, I want to know more about tapping and how it helps you get unstuck. And I want to kind of know how to start implementing it or how I know if it would actually be a good tool for me. Let me tell you this. Now that you already know what you know, this is a great tool for everybody. And the reason for that is because we all have events in our life that to that proper time and place in life, it was very upsetting. Okay. It was upsetting. It was traumatic. It was disturbing. It caused us pain or suffering. I don't care how normal of a life you had. I don't care if your mom told you that you guys were going to go to Disneyland for your birthday and your mom got sick. And so you didn't get to go to Disneyland for your, whatever, like 8th birthday. And you were like, as an adult, you're like, it's fine. My mom was sick. Why would we go to my birthday in Disneyland when my mom was sick? That's your adult brain talking. If you were to go back and ask the 8-year-old, they're probably on the floor kicking and screaming, wishing that they were at Disneyland. That's a big, heavy emotion. So I do want to just say, anybody who's had any emotions, any disappointments, any setbacks in life, or even who has goals they want to reach and just finds that for some reason they have these hurdles and these roadblocks to trying to reach those goals, anybody who has any feelings, setbacks, hiccups, disappointments, stressors, conflict is a really, really big one, then tapping is an absolutely perfect tool for you. And the reason I mentioned men and teenagers and teenage boys in the beginning is because I've noticed that tapping with men and teenage boys is very different because so many of their core beliefs were not to cry, that real men don't cry, that they're not supposed to show an emotion. And I really, truly believe, especially as a married woman, that we need our men to have emotions and to be very healthy and balanced around understanding their emotions, regulating their emotions, and sharing their emotions. So if your very trauma or trigger is to not feel, you need a place where you can actually process this concept of, it doesn't feel safe for me to even express that I have feelings. You might not even know that what those feelings are because you've never been allowed to access them. Tapping helps you to say, I don't even know what these feelings are. I don't even know what they would be. I just was told that I wouldn't be a man if I felt them. And that's a perfect place for boys or men to start with tapping. I have a tapping challenge going on Instagram right now, because I realize this video might be up for a while, December 2022. And it's just a press and hold. It's a perfect place to start when you run into stress in your day, overthinking, wanting to work out, but not wanting to work out. Anytime you go, okay, just breathe a couple times and you can really drop that cortisol pretty quickly just with a little press and hold on one point. We're just trying to keep it really simple for now and get you breathing and get your body anchored into that safety right there. It's a perfect place to start. So part 2 of this is I'm going to take you through that guided practice. It'll be separate recording. And I want, actually, you know what, I'll keep it on this recording for now the best that I can. And I just want you to understand that you're not going to get a benefit from this unless you actually do it. You can understand all that you want to about tapping, but you have to actually apply it to get the benefit. So I want to give you a lot of the explanation of what's really going on in your body, because it does look kind of silly that we're just tapping and we're just breathing and we're just doing this thing. So for those of you who really want to put something into practice right now, I want you to imagine, so just get really comfortable. You can even just take like a nice drink of water, and I want you to take just a nice clean breath. It doesn't have to be too deep. Just take a nice clean breath. And we're just going to put some of this into practice now that you know a little bit about the body and the systems and what's going on. And what I want you to do is I want you to imagine. First, you're going to imagine this. You're not actually going to do this yet. Is I want you to imagine what it would feel like to take a very, very full breath, so full that your lungs are full. Imagine what 100% would feel like. I'm pretty sick right now, so I feel like I probably wouldn't be able to get a lot of lung expansion. So I'll use me as an example. Right now, I feel like I know what 100% would feel like on a normal day. And so then what I want you to do is I want you to actually, when you're ready, and you can take a couple times to do this if you need to, now take that really big breath in through your nose, hold your lungs, and check in. Do they feel like they can only fill up 40% compared to the 100? Does it feel like they could fill up 85% compared to that 100? Really give yourself a number. You could even write it down if you want to. Okay, and if you need to try again, try again. But what we're looking at is what I think 100% feels like, and then what I was actually able to get lung capacity once I took a deep breath. Okay, so and write that down. And this is just going to be you getting a little bit of practice around tapping to get your toes wet, because we've had so many good questions. And I really, really, really want you to just have a way to practice this and get an idea, because tapping in a group or tapping with a little practice on Instagram, that's not really what I do. We do like 2.5 hours, nitty gritty, root stuff, pulling it, dropping your cortisol 85%, getting all that blood into your brain, and just clearing old trauma, just getting you ready for breakthrough, getting you to just see more clearly. People physically see more clearly, breathe deeper, are more present, more grounded. So this is just a really cool practice. So go ahead and take a nice clean breath in through your nose. I'm going to keep it pretty basic for you. And what we're going to do is we're going to check in, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so. And we're going to go ahead and take another breath in and notice what's changed. So you're going to tap right here. There's other videos for the why and the basics of our tapping. But I do want you to know that this point is very important when it comes to psychological reversal. So psychological reversal is what we're doing is we're going to be saying, hey, brain, normally when I see a redhead, remember, if I see a redhead, you want me to run, but right now I'm telling you I'm safe. Okay, this is a very important point, and our words are important. But I want you to just repeat after me. Even though I was only able to fill my lungs up such and such percent, I'm safe right here. Okay, and just take a nice breath and blow it out. Doesn't matter which hand, right or left, doesn't matter. Okay, so even though when I try to get a full breath of air and fill my lungs up all the way, I can't, but I am safe. Okay. And one more time, we always do 3 times on the side of your hand, especially when we're starting and just learning. Think about that number you got, that 85% or even 40%. I want you to really think about that and how it felt in your body. Maybe you feel like there's some restriction or limitations. Okay. These are all things that we feel emotionally, right? Restricted and limited in life. So this is a really great practice for people who don't want to think about the emotions and who just want to focus on those physical sensations and just say, I'm safe right here, even with this challenge. And take another clean breath. Blow it out. Okay. And I'm going to tap right here. And I want you to just focus on however full you were able to get your lungs, and tap right here. It does not matter which side of your body. And under your eye, think about that lung capacity. And under your nose, just thinking about that, maybe restriction, your chin, just feeling restricted. Those of you who have been here before, start thinking about where in life they actually feel restricted emotionally. That's fine. Take it farther. Take advantage of this if you want to. Right here in your chest. These points there's two of them kind of here and here. So we just kind of use our whole hand. This point you can access across your body or by doing this. And then come back up here on the top of your head and inside your eyebrow. And I want you to just think about 100%. What would 100% feel like outside your eye, breathing so full and so deep? Being able to use your whole respiratory system the way that it was designed to be used. Walking through life with all that fresh breath and oxygen in your lungs, delivering it to every organ and system. What if you could take a nice full breath and it actually felt like a nice full breath? Tap here, but instead you're feeling restricted somehow. Here, just feeling restricted in my lungs, feeling restricted in my breathing. Some of you are going to notice you actually just got a little bit what some people call tired. It's called relaxed because your cortisol drops. You'll notice my voice even drops when it happens to me. Some people get really cold. That has to do with inflammation going down. Here, and just thinking about feeling limited. Can't breathe in all the way. Right here, can't breathe in all the way. It's hard to breathe in all the way. Can't get a full breath. Tight respiratory system. Feeling limited. Just feeling limited, feeling constricted. I don't feel free. It's hard to breathe. It's like there's not enough room. And take a nice clean breath. If you want to, you can just kind of play with it and you can try to fill up your lungs again and notice, were you able to get them a little bit more full than last time? Or were they less full? I'll give you a minute to just notice what you notice. So those of you who noticed your lung capacity was greater, this is just a really neat indication that just tapping on these points that are important and the words that you use just spoke calm to your body. We're speaking to your subconscious that it was safe to relax into this space. Any emotions that are attached, because remember that 87% of dis-ease in the body can be emotional or thought process. So we're really accessing any thoughts or emotions that might be fueling this restriction in our breathing, right? When we are confronted with something in conversation with somebody and it's challenging, we might, right, get short breath. Those of you who actually noticed that you weren't able to breathe as deep, like, well, I was able to get 80% and now I can only get 60%. I would encourage you to consider what came up for you that felt relevant. Maybe when I said, is there something limiting you in life right now? Do you feel restricted in life at all? Because as your subconscious or even your conscious mind start to make the connections of if your breathing is constricted and limited, and if you feel limited in life, then what can happen is you actually become more constricted and more limited as you are on to the problem and approaching it. So it's like that game that we played when we were little where somebody hides something and they're like, you're getting closer. Oh, you're warmer, you're warmer, you're warmer, you're hot. So when the sensations get heavier or harder or more challenging with tapping, it's actually a really good sign that you're onto the problem and you're headed towards breakthrough. So if your number was even less, go ahead and consider what it was that came up for you that you started thinking about. If you don't know, that's okay, because your body knows, which this goes all the way back to my last video. But when people say, well, I really wanted to tap on my own, but I couldn't find the words. This is a perfect example. If you don't know what changed and why your breathing got tighter, it's okay. Your body knows. So usually when we're tapping together, I'm using words, but your body really has the answers and your body knows the feelings, and you can just tap on whatever this feeling is, whatever this feeling is, whatever this feeling is. So whatever's going on in my lungs, whatever's restricting my breathing, whatever's feeling limited. Okay, whatever this is in my lungs, I give my lungs permission to breathe deep. I give my body permission to relax. I give my respiratory system permission to work exactly how it was intended to work for me. I'm so thankful my respiratory system's working for me. Maybe we even get to a point where we're thankful that it's giving us signs and symptoms so that we'll pay attention to what's going on right here. Take a nice clean breath and blow it out. And right here. I'm so glad you're doing this with me, even if it's just one person who just wanted to put this into practice and gain a deeper understanding of this tool. I'm so thankful you're here, because I'm really just here for that one next person who wants to add this to their life. It's really impactful. It's incredible, because we're not just getting that relief here, that relaxation here, that cortisol drop here, but it does carry out. There's research that shows if you tap for just 1 hour a week, it'll drop your cortisol on average 65%. Imagine feeling 65% less stress in your body overall, even when stressful things happen. So that means if you were going to react with like a 100% reaction, now you're just responding with, what's the math? 45% reaction. 35? I'm not here for the math. I mean, imagine that, like really think about that. When you normally like freak out, yell, scream, react, what if you just had 35% of that left in your body? That's it. 35% stress. You wouldn't react the same. Right here. Let's go back to that breath that you took in the beginning and think about how restricted it felt. Even if you were like, well, I felt like an 80%, good. There's still that remaining space that could be filled up with oxygen, benefiting my body physically and emotionally. Just thinking about that extra space. It's safe to breathe deeper. It's safe to breathe clean oxygen. So safe here. Oh, and I give my body permission to relax around this. I'm just trying something new. Right here. We're going to take one more clean breath, and then we're going to get that final check-in right here. Go ahead and just take a nice clean breath, just a normal clean breath. Now, I would say anyone who realized there was emotional components behind this, if you started tapping on the emotions and these words are helping, just hit replay. Just stick with it and hit replay until your 0 to 10 is, like a 4 or lower. Right here. All right. When you're ready, I want you to go ahead and see how full you can get your lungs one final time. And right here. All right. All right. So go ahead and drop it in the comments what you noticed, what your first percentage was, maybe what your second percentage was if you tried it, and what your third percentage was. Um, I've never had anybody not notice any differences at all, because this really is so powerful and so rapid. But maybe if you really do feel like you didn't notice anything, check in with like your breathing, check in with your actual, like, how do you feel? Do you feel more relaxed? Do your shoulders feel more relaxed? If you had a headache, did it disappear at all? It could be for you that you are not a chest, you don't hold a lot of your emotions in your chest, but you might notice that your shoulders were kind of tight and now they're relaxed. You can notice your stomach had some, like a pit in your stomach, and now it's relaxed. So really notice what you notice as you move away from here, because your body will shift. And those of you focusing on your lungs, you're going to notice there's some shift other than your lungs. We were not emotional here. We were not talking about emotions, but you should notice, those of you who want to really pay attention to this, you should notice some of your emotions and your reaction times, and stronger, better responses, maybe more gentle responses should ensue. So please let me know if this helped you. Please let me know if you have any questions, and please, if you would, please share this with somebody that you love, who you think would be interested or open to it, because that's how it's getting into more people's hands, is from you sharing with your friends, not with me sharing with your friends. Thank you for spending your time here with me. I am here for you. Reach out with any questions.